function, except for the most basic. Because we're going to encounter and review epithelium for the different organ systems. Okay? So for now, what you need to take note for epithelium is its description, location, function, and examples of our location where they're found. Okay? And if you know the location, you will have an idea of the function. So we'll go through the definition of epithelium, the development from the embryonic stage, characteristics, classification, functions. Cell polarity, meaning how it is oriented. Is it apical, facing the surface, or basal orientation? Okay? You need like a map. Then we'll talk about membrane specialization of epithelia, the glands, and epithelial cell wall. So epithelium is an avascular tissue, meaning no blood vessels, composed of cells that cover the exterior body surfaces and line internal closed cavities, including the vascular system, and body tubes that communicate with the exterior, such as the alimentary, respiratory, and genitourinary tracts. They also form the secretory portion of glands and their ducts, and in addition, there are specialized epithelial cells functioning as receptors for the special senses. So, when you talk about the senses, they are still part of the epithelium, the lining. So they're derived from three germ layers, the ectoderm, mesoderm, and endoderm, although most are derived from the ectoderm and the endoderm. Do you remember embryology? Do you remember this? So obviously, endoderm, endo, inside, meso, middle, ecto, outside, external. So, just a generalization of what structures they give rise to. So, the ectoderm gives rise to the oral and mucosa, cornea, ectoderm to the skin and glands of the skin, and the mammary glands. For the endoderm, if you notice, they are internal organs for endoderm, liver, pancreas, and lining of the respiratory GIT. For the mesoderm, they give rise to the universe tubules of the kidney, lining of the reproductive systems, and we do the lining of the circulatory system and mesothelium of the body. Just an example. So characteristics of epithelium, they're closely opposed, meaning aligned together, adhere to one another by specialized cell junctions. So we need to understand what are those that help connect, attach epithelium to each other. They exhibit functional and morphologic polarity through a pre-surface or apical domain, a lateral domain, and a basal domain. So you must know the orientation of your epithelial cells. Pre-surface or apical. Lateral on the sides, of course, and the basal, the one attached to the basement membrane. So just an example, a drawing, and then a PEM, present microscopy. So we have the tight junction, from the word itself, tight, adherence, and of course the desmosome. So there's a table actually of that in your book. So literally, tight is really tight. Then we have the adhesions, the desmosomes, the gap. There's a gap, obviously. We'll take note where these are found later as we study the different organ systems. And in this particular book, it's again a table with their proteins, Mostly we go for tight junctions, for example. They're composed in the cytoskeletal components or active filaments function. Take note, when you look at the table, you're not expected to memorize all those proteins. You remember function. Okay? Unless specified and emphasized otherwise. So, for example, tight junctions, they seal adjacent cells to one another, controlling passage and molecules between them, separates apical and basolateral membrane domains. Defects in it may compromise the fetal blood-brain barrier, leading to severe neurological disorders. They're not for genetic defects. So function and what? Medical significance. We're going to the gap junction, for example. There we go. These examples there. So remember how? Cell junctions, function, medical significance. And then from your DRS, it looks much simpler than the one in Hungary. So I use this one. If you want to organize it better. So before we jump into the details, let's present a table. So you know how to organize it in your head. So for classification of epithelia, we have the one cell layers, simple squamous, simple cuboidal, simple columnar, pseudo stratified. Pseudo means false. It's a prank. It's a prank that is stratified because it's not. But because of the shape and the different levels of the nuclei, some are near the apical surface, some are near the basal or in the middle, it looks like they're layered. Okay? It's an illusion. For those with more than one cell layer, we have the stratified squamous, not keratinized. The stratified squamous keratinized. Stratified cuboidal, with inner shape, but layered. Columnar transitional. Later in your laboratory, these are the straight out answers that you would get. Okay? Identify epithelium at the tip of the pointer. Okay? And these are usually your quick answers. So just fix that and rattle. These are also favorite, the locations are favorite site questions. It's tabulated there, but we'll go more into detail with other slides. It's in your ebook in BRS, Board Review Series or Histology. So we can now explain further. It's called squamous when the width of the cell is greater than its height. Cuboidal, of course, the cube. And columnar, the height exceeds the width. So just examples of locations. For simple squamous epithelium, they are flattened, irregularly shaped cells forming a continuous surface. They look like a pavement, okay? Single layer. So it's derived from the word the scales of a fish, scales, supported by an underlying delicate membrane. Involved, since it's just a single layer, it's usually involved in passive transport of either gases or fluids. So, transport of gases is where? Where are gases transport? What organs? Lungs. So, meaning the lining of your lungs, it's very easy to assume, probably simple squamous for easy passage of the gases. So, here you go. Present in the lining of the pulmonary alveoli. The loop of Henle, where fluid can easily pass through. Parietal layer of Bowman capsule, the inner and middle ear, blood and lymphatic vessels, pleural and peritoneal cavities. So, their functions are forming the membrane, to transport gaseous exchange, lubrication, reducing friction, and of course, expanding membrane. It looks like this on a certain stain. However, they're more violet on other stains. Pinkish the violet part of the So we're going to simple cuboidal. The intermediate form is the simple squamous and simple columnar medium. So the nucleus is round, located in the center of the cell. They're present in ducts of exocrine glands, ovarian surface, the tubules, thyroid, and follicles. Anyway, you have your name for later. Therefore, secretion, absorption, surface barrier. So based on their location, now you have the function. They connect. So that's how they look like. Where is this? The text. Tubules. Convoluted. So these are converted. Lots of tubes clumped together because they're so convoluted that when you cut across them, can you orient yourself? Wala kang may anatomy. But of course, you have Freeman. I will always go back to the assumption that you had this in Freeman. So imagine a tube, a hose. You coil it, you coil it, you coil it. Like in a hardware store, when you buy a hose or a winding, diba? It's coil to store it neatly. You cut across that, you will have cross sections of different wires or tubes in the case of hoses. And that's how it will look like. Except that under the microscope, you have the cuboidal cells. Are you visualizing it? That's why it looks like that. Always ask why, so you will not get lost. They will look the same. They don't. So let's go to simple columnar epithelium. The cells are covered, of course. Appear columnar in sections at right angles to the basement membrane. You get what that means? This is the basement membrane. It has to be cut. If this is the basement membrane, the cutting that you will see in the microscope has to be like that. So you can appreciate the bone structure. Okay, it matters. Imagine if it's cut a little bit like that. They will look like cuboidal, lots of circles. So it also matters. So nuclei are elongated and may be located towards the base, the center, or occasionally the apex. And this is known as polarity. That's why you should specify later. There are different levels. They will look layered. So for simple columnar, they're present in the small intestine and colon, stomach lining, and gastric glands, and the gallbladder. Simple columnar. So they're very abundant actually, because we have long intestines. So therefore, transportation, absorption, secretion, and production. So this is how it is. Okay? Take a look. Basically, the nuclei are aligned. Not perfect, but still aligned. So now let's go to the simple columnar, ciliated. This time, you identify the cilia, identify structure pointed at the end. Look at the phrasing of your questions in the laboratory later. If it says identify epithelium, of course you answer epithelium. If it will ask for identify structure at the tip of the pointer, and your classmate has moved it, what do you do? You raise your hand to confirm you're allowed. Mark, you're allowed, no? To raise your hand if you have a concern that the pointer has been moved. Are they allowed to request? Raise their hand. You have orientation later for. Yeah. So anyway, but need to know your drawings, your illustrations. So they're not common in humans, except in the female trait or adaptive tract. Where do you need movement? You need to move the egg along. Look at those squares. You think those are just artifacts above it? Those are the cilia. And that's how it's going to look like by the way the slides, because we don't have trans-electron microscope for practical exams. Then we have the double cell. Identify structure. Okay, not identify. These are modified columnar epithelial cells which synthesize and secrete disease scattered among the cells of many epithelial linings, particularly the respiratory tract and GIT, because they secrete mucus. And sometimes they can have special stain for the glycoprotein. The part of the cell where secretory vesicle accumulates will bulge and compress the neighboring cells. This is how you will draw it, correct? And that's how it looks like. Is it a good picture? This is how it, actually, the one on the left side. That's your under your microscope, the high power. Times, high power, 400 high power. Yeah, low power is 100, scanner is times 10. When you draw it, you can draw it like that. Or maybe a lighter paint. If you want it to be more realistic. So, okay? Identify structure at the tip of the pointer. And then you see this, but the pointer has been moved. It's purple. And survival later. Pseudostratified, but does not go to pseudostratified columnar epithelium. So it's derived from the appearance of this epithelium in sections which convey the erroneous impression that there is more than one layer of cell. True simple epithelium, since all the cells rest on the basement membrane, all of the cells, it's still a single layer. The nuclei are disposed at different levels, thus creating the illusion of cellular stratification. They exhibit polarity with the nuclei confined to the basal two-thirds of the epithelium. Cilia are never present on stratified epithelium. So you must never answer. Ciliated, pseudostratified. So it's present in the trachea and bronchial tree, the ductus deferens, the reproductive organ, auditory tube, the tympanic cavity, nasal cavity, and lacrimal sac, the urethra, large excretory ducts. So again, therefore secretion, absorption, lubrication, transport, and production. Yes, we will have slides like this. You book picture. These are not our actual slides, they're just sample slides from the internet. But I look for the ones that are most realistic, the ones you will see in our slides. Except for me, I think I'm the only non-pathologist somewhere. Right? But I'm not that. I know how to use the microscope. So there you go. This is from the trachea. Pseudostratified columnar epithelium, not ciliated. And then we label for the goblet cell. And let's now go to the stratified epithelia. First is stratified squamous epithelium. It consists of a variable number of cells, which exhibit transition from a cuboidal basal layer to a flattened surface. So the basal layer is actively dividing continuously. It's well adapted to withstand abrasion since loss of surface cells does not compromise the underlying tissue. It's a way to slump off. When you take a bath, do you rub off your dead skin cells? So that's the surface of your stratified squamous epithelium. I hope only in the bathroom, not when you're thinking deeply in your classroom and do this. We we once had a teacher in high school who has that as a habit. And it distracted us, but nonetheless, we still learned a lot about journalism. She was brilliant, but you know, the habits, the memories that stay with you from your teenage years. And later, I was able to apply it to Sacrifice Famous Ingredient. So it's well adapted. Okay, so the nuclei become progressively condensed, meaning the nuclei progressively condensed. Does it get darker or lighter? Huh? Darker. That's what it means. Or peak, darker, more violet. And flattened before ultimately. Are you sure? Oh, yeah. Ultimately disintegrating. So the drawing, your drawing should look like that. Should look something like that. You're not pressured to be an artist. Diba, Doc Mark? You're not pressured to. As long as it will reflect what you see in the microscope. No bashing. I once had classmates fight over that. Back in histology. So it's flattened without. So on the surface is flattened without nuclei. The dry superficial cells are dead. The nuclei are lost. So this is what you rub off when you take a bath, hopefully. So it's present in the epidermis of the skin, and of course it's for protection. That is the scanner view. You know, when you're still, LTO na low power. When you zoom in, that's when you see this. You notice, sometimes you will get confused if you don't look at the whole thing. At the basal layer, it tends to look circular, right? That's why you need a good perspective, that they are gradually flattening out towards the surface. So that's more keratinosis. You should know the difference, huh? This is keratinized. You notice no more nuclei on the top. For the non-keratinized, there's still nuclei at the top. You notice. Take a look again. Are there still nuclei? So that's non-keratinized. That's still non-keratinized. This is keratinized. Locking off. You can even see it's locking off already. And that's how you differentiate in your laboratory. Now going now to certified cuboidal, this is certified epithelium, which usually consists of only 2 or 3 layers of cuboidal or low columnar. They're not involved in significant absorptive or secretory activity. They line the ducts of sweat glands, meaning they serve mainly as conduit. Okay? Because they don't absorb or secrete, they don't add or take away. They provide passage in the ducts of sweat glands, the large ducts of exocrine glands, and the anorectal junction. Always for passage. Stratified cuboidal. But here, for the kidney tubules, what do you notice? Remember, in the kidney, solutes start going in, going out. Okay? Depending on the receptors. And here we have the sweat glands. The sweat glands, then the stratified cuboidal, which are the ducts. Turn on the kidneys, because you need to see this. When you look at the perspective, you would think, are those kidneys? But you remember the kidney earlier, like a boiled water? So many tubes. But what's the lining of the epithelium? The kidney tubules, it was simple cuboidal, single layer. This one, 2 to 3 layers of stratified cuboidal. Okay? Can you remember the difference? Hopefully. The nose is certified columnar, so present in the conjunctiva of the eye, some large observatory ducts, and portions of the male urine duct. Okay. So that's a real certified columnar. Not sure who's certified. There's a definite two alignment. For the transitional epithelium, they form, they're highly specialized to accommodate a great degree of stretch. So what organ needs a great degree of stretch all the time, every day? You're holding your bladder. That's the urinary bladder. It's named because it has some features which are intermediate, transitional, somewhere in between stratified cuboidal and stratified squamous. In the relaxed state, contracted, meaning it's not filled up with the transitional epithelium appear to be about 4 to 5 layers thick. The basal cells are roughly cuboidal, the intermediate cells are polygonal, and the surface cells are large and rounded and they contain nuclei. In the stretched state, it becomes thinner, typically cells thick, and the intermediate and surface layers are extremely flattened. Okay? It depends on the status. In the relax, not stretch out, thicker, looks thinner if it's stretched. They are present in the urethra, ureters, bladders, renal cavities, and therefore protection and the ability to accommodate distension. Does it really reflect? Can you see it? Does it really reflect the transitional? Some look cuboidal, some look columnar. Correct? So there are reduction, transcendental transportation, absorption, and balloon. So now going to, so much for those, taking note of those characteristics. You think you will remember it now? A little idea on how to answer, right? Now, the pointer has been moved. I wonder how many times, with your invitation, how many times you can use that card. I don't think it's unlimited. We go to some website for unlimited. But your stomach does not have unlimited capacity. And that's what the store, the business is depending on. So let's now go to cell polarity. The free or apical domain is always directed towards the exterior surface or the domain of an enclosed cavity or tube. It is rich in ion channel carrier proteins and hydrolytic enzymes as well as aquaporins, channel forming proteins that function in the regulation of water balance. Very busy on the free or apical surface of epithelium. Lateral domain communicates with adjacent cells characterized by specialized attachment areas. Remember the table junctions. The basal domain rests at the basal lamina, anchoring the cells to the underlying connective tissue. So there you go, the different kinds of attachments. So for the membrane specialization of epithelia, so for example, the intercellular surfaces, we have the occluding or tight junctions. Again, I mentioned earlier about the table for their functions and examples, medical significance. So they seal adjacent cells together, they're involved in signaling, and they define apical and basal domain of plasma membrane. So the more cloggings, not the female actress, but the protein. So the tightness of the junction is related to the clogging stress. Just a drawing to help you visualize it. Then we have the adherent junctions. I presented you with a table that will make your life simpler. It's also in your textbook. Please go there later. So these are Purchase functions. Then take note also of focal adhesions, the significance of hemidesysomes. I'm not going to go deep into that. And of course the gap junctions. So, however, anyone who remembers from pre-med where gap junctions are famous, and they're also pointed out with the microscope, by the way, as a side question, or identify the structure again. Where do you need fast signaling of the stimulus? Where it must function as incipient, or as one unit of different cells. Correct?
Heart.
Heart? Yes, the heart. Gap junctions in the cardiac muscles allow it to function as a syncytium or one unit. And that's your physiology at work and the histological basis for it. What you see under the microscope gives sense to how it functions. Very good. Then on the luminal surface, you can have cilia, microvilli, cilia. So these are relatively long model structures resolved by microscopy. They're hair-like extensions of the ectoplasma. They give a crook-cut appearance to the epithelial surface basal surfaces. Remember ciliated? The pink hair on top. So even if the pointer has moved a bit, it says identify structure. Okay. But always confirm because there may also be goblet cells. Right? It's a lose-lose situation. You really have to raise your hand. Do not achieve. But again, you will be oriented on how to conduct yourself about clarifying about pointers. So just a drawing to help you understand. Then there's mobile cilia. And we have the microvilli. Where are they famous? Microvilli. They help increase absorptive capacity with their finger-like cytoplasmic projections. So they're in the straightened order of absorptive cells, like the intestines, and then the kidney cells. They're called brush border. Remember that? Brush border in the kidney. So there is a drawing. And we have the stereocilia. So usually, unusually long, immobile microvilli along the male reproductive tracts. So on the basal surface, they're marked by non-cellular structures and they're attached to the basement membrane. Here, we find your hemidesysomes, providing a means of anchorage of the cells via cytoskeleton to the basement membrane and the underlying supportive tissue. Think basement membrane, hemidesysomes, with 3 zones. So it talks more about the functions of the 3 zones for the hemidesysomes. A drawing of the layers. Just to help you visualize it. So again, now moving on, pituitary glands are classified into exocrine and endocrine glands. When you say endocrine, they're ductless, they directly secrete into the circulation. For the exocrine glands, they have ducts. So the morphology is classified into the simple branch, simple duct, or the compound with a branch duct. Just different drawings. Okay, so cells of exocrine glands exhibit different mechanisms of excretion. some by merocrine secretion involving the process of exocytosis, apocrine involving the discharge of free, unbroken, membrane bound. This is unusual. And appears to liquid secretory products in the breast and some sweat glands. Where is it famous? Okay. We've got apocrine secretions there. Well, the common one is the merocrine, the sweat, for example, and the digestive effects. We have the holocrine involves discharge of the whole secretory cells, with subsequent disintegration of the cells to release the secretory product, and they occur mainly in the sebaceous glands. Whole cell, the whole cell is secreted. Now, last part. How is the epithelium renewed? So, for example, the certified squamous epithelium of skin is replaced in approximately 1 to 80 days. The whole of it is every 100 days. So, cells in the stratum basale undergo mitosis to provide for cell renewal. As they're pushed forward, so they replace the ones, and eventually on the skin the cells become keratinized and they're stopped. A steady state is maintained within the epithelia, with these cells normally replacing exfoliated cells of the same rate. So cells arising by division to basal layer may remain in the progenitor cell population and they are able to reproduce. As they undergo maturation, they move to the surface. Just about a little bit about skin renewal. And that's it. Thank you. First day. Thank you. And yes, I eat dinuguan. Do you eat dinuguan? Dinuguan, by the way, for non-Filipinos is blood stew. Usually, the lechon, in order not to waste the good parts, the livers, of course, are eaten, the intestines, the ones you see on the streets, those are from the mesentery, and then the blood is put into the dinuguan, a blood stew. Okay, so that's also a delicious dish. Thank you.